add myself to the stream, and we'll get started with reading. Hello, everybody. Hello, it's me, Alicia. I'm sitting in my window in my office and enjoying the sunset. Okay, and I hope that you all are doing well this evening on this Tuesday. I hope that by me sitting here and reading this report, you can get a chance to just sit back and relax and just listen to the work that's been done, the asks that have been proposed, and all of the information that's been gathered in this 60 pages of the report. Okay. The Reparations Advisory Committee has done a lot of work to put together all of this information and to prove the case for Black San Franciscans on reparations. Okay, so let's see here. If you have any comments, please add your comments in the Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter stream. I will be checking them throughout the evening. I am broadcasting on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube as well. You can find me there and this broadcast, this live broadcast on all of those platforms. Share this platform, share this live stream, share any of the platforms that I'm being broadcast on where you're watching. Share it with your friends and family and let them know that I am reading through the report. It's a lot to understand, and so I'm going to do my best to read through it and then to bring the committee chair people onto this platform next week by Monday or Tuesday, hopefully. So keep up with what we're doing here. Follow me, and we'll read through this, and then we'll have some of our questions answered so that we can better understand, what this San Francisco reparations movement is all about. Okay, so I've done that, got that business taken care of. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. I see a couple of folks here joining me. Thank you so much. I will include any comments that you have. Please, again, put them in the comments stream. Any questions that you might have, add them in the comments stream as well. Just a little bit more business before we get started with the reading. The San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee is tackling important issues and needs your involvement to continue to develop policy recommendations and to make your voices heard. Support ARAC today. Their next meeting is happening March 6th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. If you cannot, tune in, there will be other meetings that I will share with you on my platforms as well. But if you, for some reason, cannot get information or you just need to know more about the meetings, you can go to their website at www.sfreparations.org. And that address again is there on the screen just below me, or just below me. It's kind of tricky here. Anyway, it's there, sfreparations.org. Okay, visit the website and you'll see a link there that will take you to register for future reparations advisory committee meetings that are coming up. Okay, so make sure that you go to the website there. On their next meeting, the agenda includes reviewing the submitted report, which is the first report of two reports that the governor has asked for and the Secretary of State has asked for. They will review the report that's been submitted so far, the first report, and let's see, it says submitted report prioritize our request with the Board of Supervisors during the Board of Supervisors meeting on March 14th. They will also cover outreach and the Black groups of all types and anybody affected by or involved in this reparations movement. The Historic Committee is tasked with, let's see here. Tasked with developing strategies to compensate Black people for generations of trauma Be a part of the action. Make your voices heard in solidarity. Thank you to the chair of the Economic Advisory Committee, Anite Ekanem. He has been sending regular email updates. Excuse me, my camera there. He's been sending me regular updates and emails about the meetings that are occurring, when they're occurring, and all of that. And excuse me, as I get my camera here together. And so thank you to committee chair Anite Ekanem for sharing all of the information with me. Okay, it looks like we're about ready to dive into the reading. Okay, I don't know about you, but I'm ready. I'm ready. Are you guys ready? Are we ready? I'm ready. Okay. Okay, so let me get into it here. I'm going to share the slides of the report as I read through them so that you have a page of reference to refer to. Okay, so let's see here. Go to my slides here. Okay, so there we have the very first page of the San Francisco Reparations draft plan. And I need to forward to page 20 because that's where we are. If you've missed any of the earlier recordings of my readings, they are all on those platforms that I named, including YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and you'll find the earlier recordings there that you can tune into to get yourself caught up to where we're at. Today is our third day of reading. We're on page 20. And so, and that's the bottom of this page that you see here on the screen. We're picking up at section 3, the bottom of the page in the last paragraph, titled Black Migration to San Francisco. One of San Francisco's founding fathers was a mixed-race Black and Jewish man named William A. Leidesdorff, Jr. A Caribbean immigrant, Leidesdorff first came to Yerba Buena, what became San Francisco, when the settlement had fewer than 100 inhabitants, and helped to establish San Francisco as a growing coastal destination for investors and wealth seekers alike. Leidesdorff was a savvy businessman and was extremely politically active. He donated land to create the first public schools in San Francisco, first public school in San Francisco, as well as California. He was one of the city's first public school board members and was elected city treasurer. He was appointed vice consul to Mexico and is believed to be one of the first Black American millionaires due to his investments in steamboats and real estate. A growing community. When the 1940 census was taken, San Francisco's Black population had reached 4,846, accounting for 0.8% of the city's total population. And in 1941, the global course of history exploded those numbers. Between 1940 and 1950, nearly 350, and excuse me, my mouth is sticking. Let me drink a little tea here. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is a lot, and I am doing my best to read, okay, but I need a little tea to wet my whistle here, okay? Bear with me, okay? This is important information, and this is information that the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee dug up, found, and included in this draft plan for a reason. It's all important and pertinent and relative information. Okay, so here we go. Let me go back to it. Let me skip to the page. Okay, we're in the second paragraph, or the first big paragraph there, under a growing community. Okay, when the 1940 census was taken, San Francisco's Black population had reached 4,846 people, accounting for 0.8% of the city's total population. In 1941, the global course of history exploded those numbers. Between 1940 and 1950, nearly 350,000 Black people migrated to California during what became known as the second wave of the Great Migration. African Americans who were both fleeing racial terror in the South and seeking new job and life opportunities in the North and West traveled to San Francisco. Beyond seeking refuge and a piece of the American dream in the San Francisco Bay Area, African Americans were recruited to come west and fill labor shortages in factories and shipyards, given the vacancies created by the number of white men who had gone off to war. African American men and women were needed to fulfill job opportunities or job duties that had previously been unavailable to them because of the racial discrimination. Between the 1940 and 1950 census, the African American population in San Francisco grew from 4,846 to 74,383 people. During this time, a broader contingent of Black artists, home caregivers, and children also migrated to San Francisco, joining a cadre of technically skilled job seekers and shifting the demographic landscape of the city. Yeah, I guess there was child labor. Okay. But upon the arrival in San Francisco, African Americans were met with hostile housing limitations imposed by the city's land use and planning codes. Bank lending and coordinated corporate business interest also were limitations. And despite their limited new economic opportunities, the city government coordinated with local private entities and the federal government to restrict the physical and financial mobility of Black Americans across San Francisco. This was achieved through the enforcement of racially restrictive covenants, which were clauses written into property deeds that only allowed white, Caucasian people to dwell in a home, redlining the banking, which was the banking practice of deeming Black and other communities of color blighted and thereby unworthy of bank lending due to the perceived risk of investment. The FHA lending discrimination was enacted, it came into play, and this was the discouragement of federal lending entities to extend lines of credit to non-white borrowers. And there was also local zoning ordinances, which both added highways or disvested in the schools and grocers and construction and community, uh, most populated by Black people. Okay, I'm reading the report as it is. Okay, so you'll see it there. Various San Francisco entities perpetuated anti-Black racial discrimination and continue to operate today, including the San Francisco Planning and Urban Renewal Association, which later became the San Francisco Planning and Urban Research, also known as SPUR. Remember that, SPUR. This is an organization that aggressively pushed for the redevelopment of the Fillmore and advocated for San Francisco to center white Anglo-Saxon Protestant values to the exclusion and displacement of other racial and identity groups, not just Blacks. As the growth of San Francisco's African American population accelerated between 1940 and 1963, public and private entities facilitated and coddled the conditions that created near exclusive Black communities within the city and limited political participation and representation, disinvested from academic and cultural institutions, and intentionally displacing Black communities from San Francisco through targeted, sometimes violent actions. Okay, so on to the next page. Workforce discrimination. Okay, and that's the title of this next paragraph or section of research that the Reparations Advisory Committee has presented here in this report. African Americans in San Francisco were met with racial discrimination within the workforce. Before 1940, no Black worker was employed as a public school teacher, police officer, firefighter, streetcar conductor, bank teller, bus driver, cab driver, none of that. I was a bank teller also in San Francisco for Bank of America in particular. Um, Nonetheless, there were no Black streetcar workers until 1942. Within 2 years, the number of Black platform operators grew to 700, demonstrating that the lack of representation was not caused because there was no Black skilled workers. And when the BART system was built in 1967, no Black workers were hired. The National Labor Relations Board certified unions and the the National Labor Relations Board certified unions did not admit Black members in the unions, and BART refused to enforce non-discrimination policies for unions despite the transit system being a government entity. But wait a minute now, listen, let me go back here. Okay, although I did work for Bank of America in 1982, uh, until it was a couple of years. No, I'm sorry. 1980. Yeah, 1989. Okay, my memory is failing me right now, but I did work for Bank of America in 1989 until 1992. And during that time that I worked for Bank of America, it wasn't like, they were doing uh, a great service to a Black person in San Francisco. As a matter of fact, I was paid, really low wages, and then I had to deal with so much employment discrimination on the job. I mean, it was constant. It was daily. So about employment discrimination, and them, having problems as far back as 1940, that continued to at least 1989 to 1992 when I worked for Bank of America. Okay. And then as far as BART goes and the BART system, when it was built and all of that, I have a picture of my grandfather that I'm going to dig around for during our break to show and prove to you that although, uh, the research states that, BART wasn't hiring, they weren't hiring and the unions weren't hiring, but there were a few of us you know, who were the exceptions, right? It didn't mean that things were being done right or fair. It just means that there were a few of us who worked and worked hard and did extraordinary things in order to get work, like Charlie Walker, and like my grandfather, Harrison Williams, and like myself, breaking into mainstream media the way I have with KCBS and Cron 4 and iHeartMedia. There are just a few of us, a handful of us, making our ways into the workforce and into society in a way where we have become pioneers and we have become the first in many rights. And my grandfather had a concrete business. He was a mason, and he was able to help build the Transbay tube that BART now travels through underground and through the bay. Okay, and I'm proud of that. But there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough of that. Uh, Opportunity given to Black San Franciscans. And so my grandfather, myself, and Charlie Walker, people like that were the exceptions. We are the exceptions. But that should not be the case, okay? It should be opportunities available always and should have always been available for us. Okay, so now let me get off of my soapbox. Let me go back to this report and continue. And again, I will share that picture of my grandfather as soon as I can dig it up in my files here and share it with all of you. Okay, so as thousands of migrants moved to San Francisco to work in the shipyards during World War II, and we're in the second paragraph here, they were also met with hostility and rejection. Large unions, like the Boilermakers unions, refused to admit African Americans. And when President Roosevelt issued Executive Order 8802, which stated that no employer receiving federal funding for defense contracts could discriminate, the Boilermakers created segregated auxiliary branches. and the members of these shunted groups had no rights to vote for officers within the legitimate Union branches. Okay. In 1942, when the United States Navy demanded that the San Francisco Housing Authority segregate housing for the thousands of workers and their families at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard, um, in response, the San Francisco built 5 segregated projects. That was the response. Okay, they built segregated housing projects. Okay, including Crocker Amazon, where my grandparents lived, 4 of which were for whites only. Okay. Black workers and their families had to wait on application lists to receive housing, while apartments were earmarked for white workers and sat empty. In 1952, the NAACP sued the San Francisco Housing Authority for continuing to only build housing units for white people, claiming that the city agency intended to localize the Black population to the Western Addition and away from white neighborhoods. Though the NAACP won the legal case, the city continued to build segregated housing. Wow. Wow. So my grandparents living in Crocker Amazon and Betrayal Hill housing projects, and then my mom in Hunters Point. I mean, it continued on and on and on and on for years and years and years beyond the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now in the 20th century, finally, they have torn down those housing projects. And a lot of those people have been displaced today with no replacement for housing, fortunately. Okay, I'm in the last paragraph here entitled Education Discrimination. Despite the anti enslavement clause in California's Constitution, Black enslaved people were brought to California um, who the Black enslaved people that were brought to California were generally denied the right to education. As early as 1855, state laws were established to prevent local governments from receiving extra funding when they taught a Black student. In 1863, a California law was passed that withheld state funds from schools that taught Black children. Wow. And now they can't get enough of our dollars. They want to make sure our children are in school so they can get the dollars, even if they are not paying attention to them and regulating them to special education classrooms. How about that? Although Black Californians were taxed to pay for the state's public schools, the money only paid for the education for white children. In 1874, the California Supreme Court upheld school segregation in San Francisco. Wow. Schools that did provide education to Black students were generally provided less funding and resources compared to white schools, and were shamed for their quality. In San Francisco, the first all Black school was established in the basement of a church. 6 years after its creation, the San Francisco school superintendent, George Tate, stated to his school board that the room occupied by this school for the past few years is disgraceful to any civilized community and was squalid, dark, and unhealthy. Even after segregated schools were deemed unconstitutional through Brown versus Board of Education, many school boards and districts refused to take the steps to integrate the schools. As late as the 1970s, the San Francisco School District faced court desegregation orders from Black and Latino families. Okay, so let's move on to the next page here as my mouth gets more dry. I will take a sip and just remind everyone that you are tuned to Clari-T Conversations. Thank you for joining me. It's Alicia Mayo. I'm the founder of Clari-T Media, Black woman-owned multimedia. And tonight I am presenting the San Francisco Reparations Advisory Committee Report Unlocked. It's the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee Draft Plan Report Unlocked. and we are getting to the bottom of what we know about the report. We are reading the report. We're going to find out who qualifies for reparations in San Francisco. And if you have any more questions, please include them in the comments wherever you are tuned in. If you are on LinkedIn, include your questions in the comments there. If you're on YouTube, include the questions in the comments section there. If you are on Twitter, if you are on Facebook, please share your comments and questions, and also share this live stream, because I've gotten a lot of questions about reparations, and people are asking me questions that I can't necessarily answer, because some of the answers will come in the second report, which is um, one of two parts. Okay, and so this first part is what I'm reading through right now. This is the first report that is due March 14th, or it will be submitted to the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco on March 14th. It will also be submitted to Mayor London Breed, where they will consider and move it on up to the state level to Governor Gavin Newsom and the Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber. And hopefully, all it will take then is just a signature to make this policy, or make this into policy and legislation, okay? So that San Francisco will become the first major city in the United States of America to receive the largest award of reparations, okay? I guess I can call it an award, or the largest settlement for reparations in the history. Okay, there's Evanston, Illinois. They received the first award of reparations in the history of the country. But if this reparations draft and plan is approved, both the first report and the second report, if they are approved and put into legislation, we will make history. So you want to be on top of all of this. This is very important news. This is historic news, and being right here in the Bay Area means that you get a front row seat of what is happening, including the reading of the report. If you want to read the report yourself, you absolutely can. Some folks have asked, where can I find the report? Where can I get a copy of the report? You can go to sfreparations.org. That's SF Reparations, Reparations. It's there on the screen. Go to that website and scroll through. You'll find the reparations report there. You can download it. You can read through it at your leisure, as long as you have access to it. If you don't have access to it, that's part of the reason why I'm reading it for you here this evening. So thank you again for joining me. I'm Alicia Mayo, the founder and the executive director, producer. I'm all things here at Clari-T Media. I'm a one-woman show, and I'm streaming live right now on Meta, also known as Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and all of those other platforms that you like so much. Yes, that you like so much anyway. Okay, so let's see. Let me make sure that you see my face here. So I'm here at home. I'm in my office. I'm reading through the report. There are about 40 more pages to go in this report, and it's a pretty extensive report. The San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee has done a lot of work. They've done a lot of work. They have done a lot of work, and they have had meetings and public hearings and listening sessions for more than a year now. They've been working on this, and they continue to work on it. They're having upcoming meetings that you can find on that website again at SF Reparations. And you can get involved. You can attend those meetings. You don't have to sit on the sidelines and listen to me. You can attend those live meetings as they're happening, and there is room for public comment. They open up the discussion or the meetings to the public so that you can ask any questions that you might have. But I am here to hopefully add to your level of understanding and education on this whole reparations movement here in San Francisco. And I'm honored to be a part of this process in this way. Okay, so now back to the report. And I'm at the top of the page. At the same time, activists began organizing and protesting against the neglect and misrepresentation of people of color in California's public colleges and universities. Okay, so let's see what was happening at the same time. The education discrimination, of course. And in 1968, the Black Student Union, the Third World Liberation Front, faculty, campus staff, students, and other activists across the Bay Area all gathered at San Francisco State University, my alma mater, and led a series of protests to define and shape their own educational experiences. After months of protest and negotiations around a list of student demands, the university agreed to establish a College of Ethnic Studies. This major, geared toward communities of color, was the first of its kind in the nation. All right, for early community development. African Americans moving to San Francisco initially were legally limited to living in certain parts of the city due to exclusionary language in housing deeds called restrictive covenants, which only allowed white people to occupy the dwelling. Despite having residential development across the city of San Francisco, African Americans could only primarily live in Bayview Hunters Point and the Fillmore. In Hunters Point, many families lived in the small army barracks constructed for temporary shipyard workers. These were not intended for permanent inhabitation, but with the limited resources and constraints on where they could live, Black families lived in these buildings until the 2000s. Yes, far longer than the initial timeline for their utilization. And so now we're reading the racial restrictions uh, example of the restrictive racial covenant in Figure 4A. Racial restrictions, no property in said addition shall at any time be sold, conveyed, rented, or leased in whole or in part to any person or persons not of the white or Caucasian race. This is a copy of the actual statement. No person other than one of the white or Caucasian race shall be permitted to occupy any property in said addition or portion thereof or building thereon, except a domestic servant actually employed by a person of the white or Caucasian race, where the latter is an occupant of such property. Animals, no fowl or animal other than songbirds, dogs, or cats as household pets shall at any. Okay, so let me go on to the next page because we know. Oh, I'm trying not to include my own personal statements here. I'm just trying to read through this. Okay. When the industrial boom subsided in 1945, following the end of World War II, job opportunities declined and Black San Franciscans faced employment discrimination, rising unemployment rates, and housing disparities through a coordinated effort to limit and control the places in which Black people could work, live, and be educated. By refusing bank loans for homes in areas that government and private entities did not want Black people living in, it limited the parts of the supply of available housing in San Francisco to African Americans. The pressures of housing demands exceeded the limited supply of housing available for Black people, and much of the Black population was heavily concentrated in the Western Addition and Bayview Hunters Point. And in Figure 4B, you'll see this map created by the Homeowners Loan Corporation. Government surveyors in the 1930s grades San Francisco neighborhoods based on perceived risk of financial institutions. Green is best, while red is hazardous. These maps were the foundation of what's now commonly known as redlining, a federal government sanctioned practice of denying home mortgages, business loans, and other financial services to certain neighborhoods. And the effects of this practice are still being felt today. The mid 1960s elevated a cultural profile of African Americans in San Francisco in the mid 1960s. Okay, the exponential growth of the African American population in San Francisco during the wartime era proved influential in establishing the city's arts and cultural national profile. African American musicians and artists were increasingly attracted to and visiting the Harlem of the West, a vibrant corridor in San Francisco's Fillmore district that became a gateway for Black jazz musicians, thanks to the concentration of Black owned and Black serving venues and hotels. The Fillmore Corridor was a vibrant destination for the city's Black population with restaurants, theaters, hotels, and other businesses that catered to a Black clientele when other businesses in San Francisco providing identical services refused entry to African American people. Business leader Charles Sullivan was foundational in establishing the Fillmore as the cultural epicenter of San Francisco and the region. Additionally, community building was happening in Bayview Hunters Point, where there had been rapid housing construction and growing home ownership for African Americans. And this picture in figure 6A is an original certificate of preference issued by the San Francisco Redevelopment Agency Executive Director Justin Herman to a Bayview Hunters Point resident in 1972. Wow. It says, pursuant to San Francisco Redevelopment Agency resolution, blah, 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 and the Bayview Hunters Point Housing Committee resolution adopted on December 20th, 1968. This certifies that James Oscar, residing at, he was on Northbridge Road, has a priority for new housing or rehabilitated housing in the Hunters Point redevelopment project. The number of persons in household are 3 at the time. The certificate is only valid for residents of the approved project area and may not be transferred. May not be transferred. Like a whole lot of white-owned property that's being transferred to their children and family members. And these certificates of preference have never been used because why? There was never new housing built. They were useless, basically. All right, on to the next page. Beyond these disparate housing conditions, the jobs economy for African Americans in San Francisco also began to retract with the return of soldiers, wherein new opportunities for skills building and economic prosperity were rescinded to prioritize access to white GIs. This consequently grew the unemployment rate for Black residents whose desires for permanent placemaking were resented and unwelcome. As San Francisco enters the 1960s, the Summer of Love is also a preamble to years of targeted decision making that will aggressively displace tens of thousands of Black citizens from San Francisco. On to 6. Urban renewal and redevelopment backlash. The California Community Redevelopment Act, CCRA, was enacted in 1945 and later expanded in 1951, allowing cities to create redevelopment agencies, also known as Governor's Redevelopment Proposal 2011. Upon this passage, the objective of redevelopment agencies was to allow cities and counties to confront identified blighted areas that created physical and economic liabilities, requiring redevelopment in the interest of the health, safety, and general welfare of the people of these communities and of the state. Under the California Health and Safety Code 1945, urban renewal was added to the Housing Act in 1954. And this initiated a national land redevelopment program marketed as an opportunity to revitalize economically depressed communities and bring economic development, growth, and private investments. The actual impact was catastrophic, and it interrupted and violated, or the actual impact was catastrophic interruption and violent displacement. Wow. Okay, that's different from what I was actually saying a second ago. It was violent displacement of Black communities in major cities across the country, including San Francisco, and that's for sure. Definitely was that. Redevelopment was a federally funded program enacted through local agencies in coordination with private capital, subsidizing community development projects to bulldoze communities. The singular object of urban renewal was economic development. By identifying target areas in cities where Black people and other undesired communities lived in clusters, redevelopment was sold as an opportunity to reduce crime rates, increase property value, and spur job growth, and beautifying the city's landscape. While not all communities that were raised through urban renewal were African American, Black communities were also included in a city's urban renewal plan. In San Francisco, this manifested as the raising of 40 acres or 40 square blocks. Wow, ironic, same number, 40 square blocks in the Fillmore. And those 40 square blocks also did not include the displaced 20,000 people who were given no legal protection and offered no moving costs. There was no temporary housing or other remedies. The impact of this expulsion of a community was not only limited to the Fillmore. In many ways, Bayview Hunters Point shifted to receive and welcome people displaced by urban renewal across town. When Black community residents and businesses were displaced, they often moved to another historically Black San Francisco community. Redevelopment was a menacing, devastating project executed with precision on primarily Black residents and business owners in an era of concentrated Black economic wealth in San Francisco. This action by the Redevelopment Agency had no accountability or recourse, since removal was framed as an action with a public purpose of eminent domain. Residents and businesses were given worthless promissory notes, those certificates of preference, that they could one day return. But historically, those certificates of preference have not been tracked and have rarely been honored, if at all. So we're on page 27, and this is Alicia Mayo of Clari-T Media, welcoming all of you who are tuned in to the reading of the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee's draft plan. This is the third episode of the reading. We are now on page 27. We are moving through this report pretty well, and I have since heard from the chair of the Reparations Advisory Committee, Mr. Eric McDonald, as well as the vice chair, Ms. Tanish Hollins, and one of the committee members, Rico Hamilton. They've all reached out to me, promising that they would take part in this reading, that they are available to answer any questions that any of you may have regarding this report, and to discuss any details of the report as the reports are being made public. Now, on March 14th, I'm inviting all of you to join me on the steps of San Francisco's City Hall for a rally. And I think the rally begins at around 12 noon. I have not had a confirmation on the time yet. If anyone out there has a confirmation or an actual time for the beginning of the rally, please reach out to me. I think it will begin at 12 noon on the steps of San Francisco City Hall. Please, if you support Black people in any way, Black people like me, show up and support me, support the Reparations Advisory Committee, support Black San Franciscans, support the Board of Supervisors, because I know they're going to make the right decision. They're going to make the right decision. And the mayor of San Francisco, she will also make the right decisions around this report and around moving this policy idea or the suggestions for reparations and moving it to the state level. They're going to do that. They will do that on behalf of all of us citizens and constituents and all of the folks in the history and the ancestors who have come and gone, and the future of our children. they're going to make the right decisions. They're going to send this information, this report, and the second part of the report, the second report, they're going to move it all up to the state level with Secretary of State Shirley Weber, Dr. Shirley Weber, I should say, and to Governor Gavin Newsom, who will then take it and share it with our Vice President, the Honorable Kamala Harris, and to our President, President Joe Biden. Okay. It's on that level. That's the kind of work that San Francisco is doing. That's the kind of work that the San Francisco Reparations Advisory Committee has been doing. They're doing historic work, okay? Work like no other city in this country has done on behalf of Black people and reparations, okay? This work will not be in vain. It will absolutely not be in vain. Okay, so let me, I'm going to go to the live stream and I'm going to look for any questions that you might have here listed in the comments. And why is okay? Sorry about that. Okay, let me. I see some comments here. Oh yes, yes. Okay, let's see. All right, Miss Atuma Belfry, thank you so much for taking us step by step through the process. She says, not much has changed regarding unions not enforcing Black discrimination issues. Trade unions are still, they don't enforce the racial, employment, and sexual discrimination. They have not addressed that, according to Atuma. She is part of, I think, the electricians union. And she says the game doesn't change, only the players. And I see you. I see you. Tell the truth. We will be telling the truth. She's asking about the year. What year was that? In 2023. Okay. She's citing the year. Jorge Iniguez, my brother, he's saying that this is very informative. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you to Jorge and to Utuma for joining me. How can we get a hard copy? She's asking of the report. You can get a hard copy by going to sfreparations.org. Please go to the website. That's the website for the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee. They have a lot of information there. I'll share the website before we go so that you can see what the website looks like and all of that. So sorry for smacking in the TV. My mouth is a little, I mean, in the microphone. My mouth is a little dry right now. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of reading. 60 pages of this report around reparations for San Francisco. Why San Francisco? Who qualifies? When will it be enacted? When will it take place? What are the details about San Francisco's harm and the residents that who have been harmed? And this report is all about answering all of those questions and more. It is the proof. It is the case that is being built about why San Francisco residents who are Black, who have been affected through economics, through housing, through health, discrimination. I mean, we have to show and prove it. Unfortunately, we can't just say, well, it happened, and it happened. All of that is true, but we have to prove our case. I'm having some tea with lemon. We have to prove our case. We have to show how we've been harmed. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. And like any court of law, you have to go in with your evidence. You have to go in with your proof. Okay. So that's what the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee has done for over a year. They've gathered all of this information to prove that San Franciscans deserve reparations. Now, I'm going to take a quick break and I'll do a little station identification, and then we'll come back and read through some more of this. I need a quick little break because I'm feeling a little low on energy. You might be able to tell, but I'm still going. I'm in it. I am in this, and I hope you're in it with me in solidarity. Thank you again for tuning in to this third episode, or this third reading of the San Francisco Reparations Unlocked. I'm Alicia Mayo of Clari-T Media. I'll be back with more.
If you'd like to be a guest or suggest show ideas, drop us an email or a direct message. We'd love to hear from you. Clari-T Media, human stories, grassroots solutions. Subscribe, like, follow, and share. The Bay Area Mental Health Hour, Clari-T Conversations, and We the People. Building trust for the first time. Out of chaos comes clarity. Clari-T Media.
Rock with a few, drip lit like a spotlight. Just winning, media life spinning, media life spinning.
All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. 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 Thank you to Brian Collier for the music. Brian Collier is a drummer from San Francisco, friend of mine with great artistic talent and perspective. And that one he calls The People Bounce. The people will bounce and pounce on what is necessary when it's necessary. We will pounce and we will bounce, okay? And we know how to party when it's time to party too, right? Hey. All right. Thank you to Brian Collier for that great music. That was the backdrop for some beautiful artwork provided by another brother from San Francisco, another creative, extraordinary creative, Malik Seneferu. And his pieces that you saw are part of a collection he calls Reparations in Progress. I think I got that right. And I will share more of Malik's work next week during the conversation that I will have with the chair of the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee. Mr. Eric McDonald will be with us to join us in the conversation and to share some more information about the draft plan, part one, the report, the first report, and the second report. That's coming. That second report will be released, I hear, for the public in July. So I'm reading from the first report. And this first report has a lot of just the historical perspectives and the information that support the ask. And, you know, in any court of law, you have to prove your case. And so that's what the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee has done in this report. It's extensive, some 60 pages I'm reading through, and hopefully I'm making this easier, you know, kind of like an audio book in a way, I guess, you know, with a little extra something, some visuals and, you know, me. Thank you for joining me. I'm Alicia Mayo, the founder of Clari-T Media. I am so happy that you could join me here for this reading. We're on page 27, and we're going to continue now in just a second here. Let's see, making sure I got all the business taken care of. All right, let me take off the, I see I still have Malik's information, and that's okay. I'm sure he doesn't mind, right? Brother Malik Seneferu, Reparations in Progress is what I highlighted here tonight. But I also want to make sure that you guys know, or all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and folks in the audience, that you know where you can find the report yourself. If you'd like to download the report, 60 pages of it, make sure you have enough ink and make sure you have enough paper so that you can download all 60 pages of the first report. But you can find it online on the website at sfreparations.org. That's San Francisco or sfreparations.org. Okay, you can go to that website and you can get the report there. You can also get some information about the up and coming committee meeting dates so that you can participate in the live meetings and, you know, be a part of the public questions and all of that. They open up the meetings to public comments or questions. And so be there, be a part of this history in the making. Okay. All right, so now that we've taken care of the business here, let me lower the music and let me get back to the report and add this to the stream. There it is. And I will continue on page 27. And you see page 27 there. I have the same page here. And let's begin the reading here. I will start in the first paragraph here. The aftermath of the disruptive actions of redevelopment that have been government manufactured inequities. Okay, that's a lot of, let me reread that. The aftermath of the disruptive actions, the aftermath of the disruptive actions of the redevelopment of redevelopment, generally speaking. After redevelopment, um, that oh gosh, I have a feeling Professor James Taylor had to do with all of this fancy language. Some of us, yeah, I can say the words, but okay, if we put it in simple terms for simple folks, average folks who just want to understand this, you know, but that's why I chose to read it. Okay, so let me back up and let me make sure that I can read the words. Sometimes we have to Google the words. I don't need to Google the words always, but saying these words in the way that you put it together, it really does matter when you expect for the public to read through it. I'm not getting on the case of the advisory committee, but I am saying to you that when you write up these reports, and I know that you guys have made an extra effort to make sure that we could read the report, just know that when you put these words together, I mean, if you can choose words and there is a thesaurus with word choices, please consider that for the folks when they're trying to read this, because I am a news reporter, I'm a traffic anchor, I am someone who I've been reading a long time, but if I'm having a difficult time saying it, even after I have my tea, okay. All right. So that's why it's important for you all to come, show up, and break all of this down so that we don't have to read so much of it. Make it easier for us. Please, if you are listening and you are a part of the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee, please join us. Please join us. Reach out to me. Let me put my email address here on the screen so that you know where to find me. Reach out to me. Let me know you want to be on, okay? Because I will be more than happy to have you on. I'm not doing this for, just to be on camera and to be on the microphone. I'm doing this because a lot of people have asked me about this report. They have asked me questions that I couldn't necessarily answer, but I told them I would do my best to answer their questions by reading the report. Okay. I'm doing my best, but if I can't get through a sentence, then yeah, that's not completely my fault. Let me see. Okay. Okay, so Alicia Mayo 430 at gmail.com. That's my email address. If you are a committee member and you want to be on to help us understand this report and to summarize things and make it a little bit easier for us to understand it, please join me here. You can get permission from the chair and the vice chair. They will, I hope, they will both be on next week, either Monday or Tuesday. Mr. Eric McDonald is the chair of the Reparations Advisory Committee, and Ms. Tanish Hollins is the vice chair. They promised to be on, but we'd like to hear from the subcommittee leads, okay? So that you can break down what you're focused on, whether it's health, education, economics, etc. We want to hear from you. We really want to hear from you, and you are more than welcome. This is your home. Clari-T Media, this platform is your home. I am supported by the Dreamkeeper Initiative, and the Dreamkeeper Initiative is all about understanding our perspectives and our stories and really making sure that we get to tell our stories in our way, okay? In a way that we can understand it. So please join me here on the platform. Back to the report now. Okay. The aftermath of the disruptive actions of redevelopment have been government manufactured inequities, yielding stunted economic security. Harm was done, okay? Harm was done through redevelopment, okay? And it messed up our money. It stunted our economic security. mobility, and opportunity of a specific ethnic group in San Francisco. African Americans, yes, us. Throughout it all, Black residents have worked to maintain connectedness and a sense of community and belonging in a city that they helped to build, fighting for inclusion in the face of the racial exclusion written into the landscape through public policy decisions and private advocacy. Ooh, that paragraph. Let me mark this paragraph because I just want to give an example of, you know, how not to write. I mean, was it necessary to have all those words? Was it really? Just cut to the chase for us now. There should have been like I guess a shorthand version for me at least. The contemporary, and this is the second paragraph, I'm sorry. The contemporary landscape for San Francisco's diverse Black populations is shaped by persistent disinvestment in population stabilizing strategies and a lack of recourse for anti Black discrimination. Federal and local policies since the 1990s have shaped San Francisco's landscape by continuing a practice of forcefully displacing communities through decisions driven by race. In 1996, the Clinton administration announced the one strike law, a public housing drug policy that evicted not only the violator, but their entire family if they were caught using marijuana or any other drug in any quantity. Planning decisions, coupled with employment discrimination and disparities, accelerated housing development in ways that pushed low income Black people out of their homes and further into the margins. The impacts are borne on San Francisco's streets, where 70% of the unhoused population was previously housed in San Francisco, and nearly 40% of the unhoused population is Black. Black San Francisco residents have also been subject to environmental racism due to limited access to housing options in ecologically hazardous locations. The historically Black neighborhood of Bayview, Hunters Point, has been contaminated by radioactive material from the nearby shipyards. The houses the city's only wastewater processing facility. Okay, it houses the city's only wastewater processing facility. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Of course, location. Okay, put us in the worst part of the city, right, where there are dumps and water waste facilities, and because of the proximity, the neighboring community experiences disproportionate rates of chronic conditions and cancers. This phenomena is not experienced by wider, wealthier areas of the city. Oil production facilities are located in close proximity to Black neighborhoods as well, also known as environmental racism. Environmental racism. How difficult is it to say that? Environmental racism. Two words. Two words to explain that. That's a lot. You know, the report is important, but how you write the report is important. Excuse me, I need to close my window here just a second. Stand by. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Okay. All right, we're still on page 27. We're still here. We are still continuing. All right, the impact environment of environmental injustice, as well as the myriad of social determinants of health, that affect Black San Franciscans has significantly shortened the lifespan of this racial group as compared with other San Franciscans. African Americans have the lowest life expectancy compared to any other group in San Francisco. In addition, Black Californians also have the highest mortality rate in 9 out of the top 10 causes of death in San Francisco. Predominantly Black communities have disproportionately higher rates of chronic disease, including asthma and lower birth rates. Black communities are more vulnerable to industrial and military grade toxic radioactive water exposure and asbestos contaminated dust. Yes. While San Francisco city government has emphasized its positions against slavery, discrimination, and anti Black racism through hundreds of resolutions, ordinances, research papers, and hearings, included but not limited to the following. And also note these are run-on sentences. I'm sorry. Also noted in the addendum at the end of this document. Okay. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. They did the work. Okay. Now, the first line you see highlighted says resolution declaring anti-black racism as a human rights and public health crisis in San Francisco was adopted in August 2020. Next, report of the San Francisco Mayor's Task Force on African American Out Migration was produced in 2009. The unfinished agenda, the economic status of African Americans in San Francisco, 1964 through 1990, was published in February 1993. Report of the Interim Committee on Human Relations, published October 8th, 1964. Mayor Breed announces spending plan for historic reinvestment in San Francisco's African American community, what later became the Dreamkeeper Initiative in 2021, February 2021. And I am a proud recipient of the Dreamkeeper Initiative grant for storytelling and narrative shift. Thank you. Let's see. Mayor London Breed issues executive directive to encourage recruitment and retention of diverse workforce, September 2018. San Francisco Office of Cannabis Equity Report was produced November 2017. The Karen Act is an ordinance making it unlawful and providing damages for racially motivated calls to the police, October 2020. Thank you, former president of the Board of Supervisors and supervisor for District 10, Shimon Walton. Thank you. Slavery Era Disclosure Ordinance, also known as CEDO. The ordinance requires contractors to provide insurance services, financial services, or textiles to the city and disclosures of any participation in the slave trade. Thank you to former District 10 Supervisor Sophie Maxwell, adopted November 17, 2006. Resolution urging Recreation and Parks to remove the name of Justin Herman from the Justin Herman Plaza, located at the intersection of Embarcadero and Market Streets, and condemning the target actions of Justin Herman himself as an actor of the city to remove African Americans and Japanese residents. That was adopted September 2017. Resolution affirming the city and county of San Francisco's commitment to making the Fillmore Jazz Preservation District happen in May 2000. An ordinance creating the African American Arts and Cultural District happened in December 2018. There's also an ordinance establishing the African American Reparations Advisory Committee in December 2020. Look at the work. Look at the work. Oh, look at the work. Oh, look at this work. It's coming over me. It's coming over me. The African American Citywide Historic Context Statement There's no date attached to that. And there's dozens of hearings on the state of African American employment and economic mobility in San Francisco. That's happening. And it's happening during the Reparations Advisory Committee meetings that you can find on the website. And let me take off my email address. You can find on the website at sfreparations.org. Go and register for the next meetings there that they're having. The creation of the Abundant Birth Project to address infant mortality and maternal morbidity in the African American community. There's multiple hearings on the African American student achievement gap, creating Malcolm X, Willie Brown, and Jude and Jordan education academies. A lot of work is being done in the city by Black folks. Still, we are still fighting, still working, still doing the work. In conclusion, San Francisco's, oh, let me go to the next page for you. I'm sorry. I'm on page 29. Conclusion. San Francisco's international reputation as a shining progressive gem in the West is undermined by its legacy of mistreatment, violence towards, and targeted racism against Black Americans. While neither San Francisco nor California formally adopted the institution of chattel slavery, the values of segregation, white supremacy, and systematic repression and exclusion of Black people were legally codified and enforced. Still, the promise of social liberties for all through innovative governing is not elusive. All right, I guess they were writing for a court of law when they were writing some of these parts, or this part. Through every experience, Black people have found joy, built community, and continue to advocate for their human rights in San Francisco. The San Francisco Reparations Plan is guided by quantitative data, the conclusions from previous reports on the status of African American communities in San Francisco, and extensive qualitative feedback shared by people with firsthand lived experience as Black citizens in San Francisco. The city's government has the opportunity to take steps that redress the discriminatory actions taken to violently displace, limit political participation, invisibilize, make us invisible, restrict the physical and financial mobility of, and otherwise harm Black people across San Francisco. Through a tailored plan, San Francisco can redress the public policies explicitly created to subjugate Black people in San Francisco by upholding and expanding the intent and legacy of chattel slavery, whose vestiges continue to have impacts today. Okay? Through a tailored plan, San Francisco can redress these public policies. Ooh. All right, on to page 30. Oh, goodness, where's my page 30? Maybe that means it's time to stop. Is it time to stop? Okay, folks, there's a lot going on in this report. A lot going on in this report. And if you want to read the report, get it in your hands yourself and read the report yourself, feel free to do it. This is my attempt to read through it with you because it is a lot of information. It's a lot of information, and I'm doing my best to go through it. And I cannot find page 30. And I guess I didn't think that I would get through that many pages, but we have. Let me see here. This might be, no, this is not it. All right. Well, you guys, let's see here if I can skip to anything in particular that I think I want to leave you all with. Let's see here. Let me put myself up on camera here. Yeah, I think it's important for us to, go through the report, just sift through it. And like I'm here on page 35 because I can't find page 30 through 34. I'm at the section on page 35. Let's see, I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Page 35. Okay. Where it reads MOHCD, that's the Mayor's Office of Housing, Construction and Development, I think, should address and remove barriers built into the BMR program that limits wealth building. I don't know what the BMR program is, but let me read. Rationale. Currently, most of these guidelines prevent BMR inhabitants from building wealth through home ownership. BMR owners do not realize the full appreciation of their home value if and when they choose to sell, or are barred from renting their properties to both short and long term tenants. And should a leaseholder pass away, the property cannot be inherited by their descendant. That's another discriminatory um, housing plan, or it limits us. Although they're offering help for homeowners, for first time homeowners, there are limits written into law that say we can't pass the property on to, let me see. Oh my gosh. They don't realize the full appreciation of their home value. If and when they choose to sell, they're barred from renting their properties out to short-term and long-term tenants like regular homeowners, right? They put new rules and restrictions on Black homeowners because they got some help. We should be able to receive reparations and help without restrictions, without penalties, without limitations or barriers. We need to be treated the same way that other folks are treated with their money, okay? That they've worked for, and or that they didn't work for, that was passed down. Honey, don't even get me started. I'm going to stop here, you guys, because I'm getting worked up. And see, that's why it will be great to have the committee members on with us to help us read through and understand a lot of this. We can sift through a lot of it, decide what we want to read and what we don't want to read. But I just don't want us to miss anything. I don't want us to read past and beyond some really important information that maybe we should be trying to understand. And, we could get to it and read it and still not understand it, right? What was all of that about? What I heard Alicia reading it, but what does it actually mean for me, the Black San Franciscan? How will I be affected by it, right? So please just note how important it is for all of you out there who live in San Francisco and who are going to be affected by this reparations legislation that will come. It's not legislation yet. I mean, this is the report, the first report submitted by the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee. But if it becomes law, how will we understand this law? What does this law mean? What does this all mean for us? So we're going to need to hear from the committee members, the leads, the chairs, and all of the folks who put together, this report. It's going to be important for you all to participate and to show up regularly to inform us and to, interpret what we're reading here. Okay, so let's see. I may have another comment. Yeah, Utuma says we are targeted on a number of fronts, on so many fronts. We are. And thank you, Atuma, for tuning in, and Jorge on LinkedIn, and Atuma is on Facebook. And let me go on over to YouTube and see if I've got some folks over there. I don't think so, because I think the comments would have come through. Okay, so let's just wrap it up here for now. Again, folks, I just I'm a little tired. It's 6:47. I stayed on a little bit longer than I planned to, and I hope that you've gotten something out of listening to me rant. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for ranting, okay, through this reading of the third reading. I will be back. I'm going to try and be back tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday evening, tomorrow evening. I will be back for another reading at 5 p.m. To continue on page 30. Yeah, I left off on page 30. If I forget, you make sure you remind me in the comments, okay? Alicia, where is page 30? Page 30 through 34, somewhere around here. I may have to download and print it. Again, if you want to get your hands on the report, the San Francisco Reparations Advisory Committee draft plan, go to the website on the screen there, just right there, right there. It's the San Francisco Reparations Advisory Committee website, sfreparations.org. That's www.sfreparations.org. Go there. You will find the report there. As a matter of fact, let me go there right now. And you'll find the report there. You'll also find meeting a meeting link, sfreparations.org. There we go. Okay, and it's pulling up the page. And now I'm going to share it with you, okay, just so you'll know what it looks like and what you can find on the website. So stand by here in just a second. There we go. Okay, so there's the page for the San Francisco Reparations Advisory Committee. And if you go to the lines at the top there, you'll find some information about the Reparations Advisory Committee, about us, the subcommittees, the meetings, and other resources. Okay. And then that's their Instagram icon. I guess that will take you to their Instagram page. Let me tap on it and see where it takes us. It's loading. Stand by. Yes, it looks like it's their Instagram page. Yeah. But it's not. It's not being shared on my screen. I don't see it. Okay, so let me. Well, let me go back. I don't want to take us away from where we're at. Okay, so for example, if you go to, let me just go to one of the tabs here, the subcommittees. The subcommittees are listed as such, and they are the Economic Empowerment Subcommittee, and Anita Ekanem is the subcommittee lead or chair. There's the Education Subcommittee, the Health, and the Policy Subcommittee. And then if you go to the Meetings tab, there's a calendar of the meetings, and I'm tapping on the calendar. Let's see if it took me to a separate, okay, here it is. Okay, so here's the February calendar of meetings. And let's see. Yeah, the calendar is there. And then let's go back to upcoming past meetings. You can, and that's going to be important for you to get caught up on their past meetings. For a complete archive of past meetings, please visit the San Francisco Human Rights Commission's San Francisco Reparations site you can tap on here and it'll take you on over to the Human Rights Commission's past meetings and the information there on the African American Reparations Advisory Committee. Okay, so the lists are all here. Go there and check out the list of the past meetings. All right. So please make your way over to the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee website, where you're going to get the information that you need about what is happening with the Reparations Advisory Committee, where they're meeting, when they're meeting again, et cetera, and all of that. Okay. All right. So now let's see what else. I think that's it for now, you guys. Let me go to the banners here. Again, the San Francisco Reparations Advisory Committee is tackling important issues and needs your involvement to develop policy recommendations. If you're a Black San Francisco resident or a resident that wants to just include your ideas for Black San Francisco and the reparations that we will receive. Okay, make your voices heard. Support the ARAC or the committee by showing up to a meeting. Their next meeting is scheduled for March 6th, 2023. Of course, time of meeting 6 p.m. and you can register on the website and by tapping on the link, going to the calendar and tapping on that link and getting registered for their Zoom meeting. And the agenda on that March 6th meeting includes a review submitted report, prioritize our request, Board of Supervisors meeting support for March 14th. And I want you guys to be there on the steps of San Francisco City Hall with me. I will be there. I want you to come be there and support us or join us in solidarity and be there to support Black San Francisco reparations. They're going to also look at doing outreach to all of the different community-based and Black groups, Black organizations, and um, they are saying that the Historic Committee is being tasked with developing these strategies to compensate Black people for generations of trauma. Um, and so they want you to be a part of the action, make your voices heard in solidarity. And that came from Chair of Economic Empowerment, Anita Ekonim. Yeah, yeah. So I'm Alicia Mayo. There's my email address. If you'd like to be a guest or you have show suggestions or ideas, please reach out to me at aliciamayo430@gmail. I'll leave that there on the screen just a little bit longer for you. Again, I'm more than happy to talk with you about what I'm doing here on my platform. I can offer you some advertising and promotions at little or no cost for your business, depending on your business and the purpose and the mission and all of that. Please reach out to me for that. That's what I'm here for. And I am a proud recipient of the Dreamkeeper Initiative for Storytelling and Narrative Shift. I want to thank the Honorable Mayor London Breed. I want to thank the supervisor, San Francisco supervisor of District 10, Mr. Shimon Walton. And I'd like to also thank the director of the Human Rights Commission, Cheryl Evans Davis, for their support and all of their guidance and just, you know, reaching out to all of us community-based organizations and nonprofit groups like mine, Clari-T Media, to say we're here to help, we're here to support, and we're here to help you leverage what you're doing, which they believe is something worthy and worthwhile. And I believe I'm doing something worthy and worthwhile because I left corporate media to create my own media so that we could sit and have these kinds of long conversations. I knew when Facebook was created and I got on to Facebook in 2013, I knew that this would be the result. I knew I had faith in it. I wasn't afraid of exposing myself because I knew that I wanted to tell the stories that weren't being told. I wanted to tell those stories that were being overlooked and ignored. The people, when my news director at Cron 4 got in my face and yelled at me over a Willie Mays story, that's when I knew I needed to get out of there. Okay. A story about Willie Mays, a San Francisco giant. Oh my gosh, a Black man. But I was scolded by my former news director. Well, he's no longer at Cron 4. They finally realized who they had in their midst. Some loony. Anyway, That was my personal opinion. That is, Clari-T Media does not support the opinions of the owner, the founder. Okay. I'm going to separate my opinions from my business. Okay. Okay. That is not what Clari-T Media is all about. Okay. But I will name names if I need to. Okay. Don't get it twisted. And I have enough folks listening and watching to do that. Yeah. So don't mess with me. Don't come for me. All right. Okay, so I'll take a quick break. I want to highlight some of the work, the beautiful work of Malik Seneferu. Again, for those of you who missed it as I close tonight's reading and tonight's broadcast. Again, this is Alicia Mayo, Clari-T Media, Black-owned media, Black woman-owned media. Glad to be with you and so honored you joined me. Thank you. I'll be right back.
You're watching Clari-T Media. Out of chaos comes clarity. If you'd like to be a guest or suggest show ideas, drop us an email or a direct message. We'd love to hear from you. Clari-T Media, human stories, grassroots solutions. Subscribe, like, follow, and share. The Bay Area Mental Health Hour, Clari-T Conversations and We the People. Building trust for the first time. Out of chaos comes clarity. Clari-T Media.
Rock with a few. Drip lit like a spotlight. Just winning. Media life spinning. Media life spinning.
Tune in weekdays to the Bay Area Mental Health Hour on YouTube, Instagram, and on Facebook. You'll find us covering issues surrounding your everyday coping skills and your mental health and wellness. And remember, your mental health matters as much as your physical health.
A lot of places I've seen a lot of things. Yeah, I've been doing so many hardships. I'm sipping on this cup of misery. I've been broken. Clearer now. I may not be what I want, but I'm not what I used to be because I'm free. Flying so high on eagle's wings. Take a look inside of me. What I used to be because I'm free. Seems like there's no solution, no. Yeah. And I'm feeling so much pain. But I've come to this conclusion. Yeah. I'm letting go of yesterday. Yeah. I can see, yeah, mercy and grace, yeah. Standing in redemption now, no. Now it's time to finish our race, hey, because I'm free. Flying so high on eagle's wings. Take a look inside of me, oh. I may not be what I want, but I'm not what I used to be because I'm free, yeah, oh. A lot of places I've seen a lot of things. Yeah, enduring so many hardships. While sipping on this cup of misery, I've been broken, wondering will the sun never shine on me? Yeah. But I can see much clearer now. I may not be what I want, but I'm not what I used to be, because I'm free. Flying so high on eagle's wings, take a look inside of me. Oh, yeah. I may not be what I want, but I'm not what I used to be, because I'm free. Seems like there's no solution, no. Yeah. And I'm feeling so much pain. But I've come to this conclusion. Yeah. I'm letting go of yesterday. Yeah. Freely I receive. Yeah. Mercy and grace. Yeah. Standing in redemption now. No. Now it's time to finish my race. Hey, because I'm free. Yeah. Oh, flying so high on eagle's wings. Take a look inside of me, inside of me. Oh, I may not be what I want, but I'm not what I used to be, because I'm free, yeah.
Me happy to be here to read this reparations report and to to give you whatever I can give you in terms of information. Yeah, join me again tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. I promise I will be much more focused this time. I will just read through the report. I won't give so many opinions, and I won't include so much of my own stuff. Nevertheless, it is important in terms of the context and building the case and showing and proving. And I've got to get that picture of my grandfather loaded up. I'll share that with you guys tomorrow night. But thank you again for joining me here. I'm still here, but I'm going to wrap it up now. It's just after 7 p.m. And so let's just call it a night for now. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. So join me. Be on time. I'll be on time. I was a couple minutes behind tonight, but for a good reason. I had to get myself some dinner. Nourish your bodies, nourish your minds and spirits, however you need to. We need to remember and keep our eyes on the prize, right? Think about the long term. Think about our children and our grandchildren and the future of our families here in the Bay Area, particularly with those families who have been displaced disproportionately and discriminated against and not served in San Francisco in particular. And thank you to the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee for putting together this report and continuing with the second part of the report and doing all of the work that you've done to build the case for San Francisco reparations. We will make history. We will make history. We'll do this. And we'll move on with our lives in a greater way. I don't think that the money is going to be the answer, because I can go and find a $3 million house and I will only have $2 million left over from the $5 million that they're asking for. It's the other parts, the other important legislation that needs to be upheld and passed so that I have the opportunity, along with my children and my grandchildren, to live out our lives in the fullest ways that we can possibly live our lives. And that's what this is all about. That's what reparations is really all about to me. All right. Thank you. I'm off of my soapbox again. Okay. Thank you for joining me, y'all. Y'all, thank you. I love you guys. Okay. Share any comments or questions with me. You can find me here tomorrow night at 5 p.m. if you didn't get my email address. If you didn't get the reparations.org website, it's at sfreparations.org. You can go there. You can look up anything that you may have missed or information that you don't know about, and you have questions, you want to see the report yourself, download it, go to Reparations, San Francisco reparations.org. Okay. All right. So I'm going to wrap it up now. I love you guys. I promise this time. All right. Good night, everybody. Good night. I love you. And I will see you next time. Tune in weekdays to the Bay Area Mental Health Hour on YouTube, Instagram, and on Facebook. You'll find us covering issues surrounding your everyday coping skills and your mental health and wellness. And remember, your mental health matters as much as your physical health.
If you'd like to be a guest or suggest show ideas, drop us an email or a direct message. We'd love to hear from you. Clari-T Media, human stories, grassroots solutions. Subscribe, like, follow, and share. The Bay Area Mental Health Hour, Clari-T Conversations and We the People. Building trust for the first time. Out of chaos comes clarity. Clari-T Media.
Rock with a few, drip lit like a spotlight. Just winning, media life spinning.